wars is going on. Number 5, change. Okay, so we got that. And what it was, well, as a soul, as a current soul living on planet Earth, you had to make a choice quite a while ago. And a lot of you have. You're here. And this choice really, according to my calculations, was 2003. But one of these events where they had to bring the global energy super, super low was 9/11. Just before the 2003, the energy shift of planet Earth, because they were like, the Kabbalah was like, okay, 2003, there's going to be increase of energy. Too many people are going to awaken. Let's bring it down with 9/11, shall we? Let's cause a little drama. So they always do their drama about like few days before or a year before, because they've calculated, they know when it's happening, and then they're like, and then everyone goes really down, but you got to rise above it, and you got to know these dates, and then make a choice. Okay. So 9/11 was definitely a big change happened globally with the AI and the illegal surveillance going on. Airports were overtaken by sleepers and unhumans, radiating the hell out of you and your family members and enjoying it. And all the events now that I'm going to quickly read out to you, starting, I don't know why I put, okay. World War II started 9th of September 39 during the Olympics, where Germany attacked Poland, and that adds up to a Kabbalah number 32, and that's equivalent to number 5. World War I started 28th of July 1914, which adds up again to 32. And this information excludes astrological dates. There's the zodiac astrological nuance as well, not only numerology, but it adds up to number 5. United States Independence date was on the 4th of July, 1776, and that adds up to 32, which is number 5. And that was a positive event, and the United States Constitution was on the 4th of March, 1789, which adds up to the 32, which is number 5. You can see the full lecture on my channel. And negative counterfeit, so there was a battle going on. The resistance group and positive and negative try to overlap each other, not to bring the energy too down. And so the next event is formation of the Masonic Lodge, which is 24th of May, 1776, adds up to 32, which is 5. They needed exactly 400 brethrens and 160 females, and the ceremony started at that date, and it reached the number 5. And they are just obsessed to make sure that everything is synchronized. And one of their favorite months is March, because March represents the Aries, the bull, and it's like the seed that you put in the springtime that will soar through the soil and get the job done, the manifestation. So March is definitely one of their favorite times to start drama. Now, there is the 509th Composite Group, which was the tragic Hiroshima in Japan, and it was called the 509 Composite Group. And Little Boy and Fat Man atomic bombs were ignited, and that adds up again on the 4th of August, 1945, and it adds up to number 5. There's so many more dates. There's the Titanic as well. And key people, Martin Luther King and Russell Gerald, all these activists, key activists as well, are blood sacrificed during these dates. And then there's the ship Estonia, which was the biggest tragedy in Estonia. I have multiple people who I knew that were on that ship. And funny enough, I was meant to be on that ship. So that is a little bit, a very paranormal story. Me and my mom, we heard 3 nights in a row before the ship Estonia sank, 3 heavy knocks on the door, because death was knocking on our door and reminded us, you guys were meant to be in Stockholm and on that ship, but you escaped. So that was 27th of September 1994, and that adds up to number 5. 800 people died, drowning. They said that they were carrying extraterrestrial vehicles in their our Roswell from Paldiski, but I doubt it. They wouldn't use a commercial ship. And then, of course, WHO Agenda 2021 adds up to number 5. And then 5G, okay? There is no 6G coming. It is 5G for now. And that is not even switched on, and we're already all going crazy by it. And then there is Agenda 2030, which adds up to number 5. And so there's a lot more events like that that I calculated. So they use pagan science. Paganism has been around since Saudi. So they used pagan science. They asked this 33-degree part of human in the walk-in, teach us how to do these ceremonies, teach us the magic. Come on, teach us the magic. We want to know how this shit works here. And the human was, okay, you do it like this because the human being has the creativity. It has the creative soul being, and it was telling the archons everything, how to conduct all these things. And you use the 5 elements. You use the ether, which is the spirit, and you use ether as well, which is in alchemy, the matter that is between the matters. So ether means 2 things. It means spirit, and it means in biochemistry and alchemy, it means the matter between the matter, the energy. So they use the 5 elements for that, and the human being spilled the beans and taught them this since Mesopotamia time. But first time they really got in was during the 4th Ice Age, when the first human beings came to Earth from Corona Borealis Alphecca, which I'll get to. I'm telling you a lot to cover. So let's start now with some examples to show you who are the human servants.
I shall hand you over. Colin, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I was just going to do a brief intro. You might wonder who the hell Bob Brown is. You may be wondering who the hell Colin Wolford is. I'll just say that I'm actually been an admin for Miles's Bases Project on Facebook for, I can't even remember, since the early days and even before AMASH. So if you're not a member and you're on Facebook, it's a private group. It's got nearly 8,000 members, the Bases Project, if you want to keep abreast of information there. I do post all Miles's videos of his Bases content. And generally it's a very good group, and that's a private group as well. So that's quite a large membership for a private group. So yeah, check it out, Bases Project.
So I knew there was something to the Billy Meier case after all, and in fact I suspected that it's probably the most important case that we, the public, had to look at that time. So my plan was to go to my film festivals in Europe. Between the MIPCON and the MIFED, there was 9 days. I'm going to rent a car, I'm going to drive to Switzerland, I'm going to see if I can find this place called Schmidt-Rudy, and see if I can find some of these sites. I'm going to see if I can meet Billy Meier. This was my plan. So, excuse me, I went over to do this, and a rather extraordinary thing happened to me. I'm not going to go into detail about it. I actually talked to Miles about this in a previous interview he did with me, a shorter interview. And that record is there, and most of you have probably seen it. So I had this extraordinary occurrence happen. A voice talked into my head. It led me to one person out of 6,500 people at this Cannes Film Festival. Led me directly to one person. That person had already investigated Billy Meyer. That person had been to the farm in Schmidt-Rudy multiple times, spent weeks there. She had done all of the work that needed to be done. And we talked about this and everything ufological through the night. The sun was making the sky light in the morning by the time we broke up our talk and went back to our hotels for a couple hours sleep. When I got back to the United States, I couldn't let this go because, well, I don't know about all of you, but this is the first time a voice ever spoke in my head and led me to someone. It was powerful, extremely powerful for me as a person. And I said, this means more even than what it is on the surface. I'm supposed to be doing something with this. So as I've already mentioned to you, I was making films at that time, documentary films, mostly on aviation. So when I got back, I said, little voice in my head said, maybe you need to be making films about ufology. So the next year and 3 months-ish out of my life, I did just that. I took in a partner, wonderful guy named Ted Oliphant. He and I crisscrossed the United States many times, meeting everyone we could. That was anybody within the ufological scene, interviewing them, talking to them, going to sites, looking at evidence. We ended up making a 93-minute feature-length documentary called UFOs: A Need to Know. So in the process of doing this, of course, I went to UFO conventions myself. I went to those from the age of 11 or 12 on. And I'd never stopped going to them. But back then, those conferences had issues in my mind. They were all very short. They seemed to always have exactly the same people speaking. And there were far too few of them. So one of the people that I got to meet during this investigative journey of a year and 3 months was Wendell Stevens. A couple of hundred aviation videos. So the most amazing conversations began as people picked these up and began to read them and see what they were. So now I can put on something that I will enjoy, really, really. And so I put Bob Dean on. So the beginning of his presentation is starting, and they're streaming like lemmings. People are going across, couple stop. Cock their ears, they turn their heads, they walk back, they stand in front of the TV. By about 11:45, I had 30 people around the TV listening to Bob Dean. Bob Dean's voice, his story, what he's talking about, his sincerity. He's gathered 30 people around the TV. By the time the air show started, I had 45 people around the TV watching Bob Dean, not going to the air show. That's the power of Bob Dean.
And
That's a little Bob Dean story.
But that was like the word I was looking for. His aura. His aura was amazing, and he's like a magnet, wasn't he? Would just bring you in. And I know he also felt he had past lives and all sorts of interesting stories. But yeah, he was a great man. So sadly, a lot of these people now are not with us, which is a real shame for ufology. But as I say, a lot of this is recorded, and you can watch the videos on YouTube. And as I say, Bob's got some DVDs here this weekend. But so the conference then went over to this Open Minds, and I guess you took a step back. As I understand it, because I actually went to all the next ones when it had changed hands over to Open Minds, and Alejandro Rojas and his wife were sort of running that conference. And I think I went to literally the next 9 years, ironically, which is not far from where you live now, in Fort McDowell, I believe, in Phoenix. And then obviously we had the whole COVID situation. Well, maybe we can just address that in a minute. But what was it then that made you want to get back into the whole UFO thing? Because I guess with the Open Minds, they kind of reduced it maybe just to a 5-day event or something, or maybe
yeah,
less
they
than that.
fundamentally changed it. You see, Jonathan Rao believed what he told me when he said to me, Bob, I'm going to make this bigger. You're going to have 4,000 and 5,000 people attending within a couple of years. I really believed him when he said that. Now, then he made that statement, which I shared with you, right? I can finally get this event out of the hellhole of Laughlin. So when I find out where he's going to move it to, well, I have one of my daughters lives quite near where this venue is. She lives in Fountain Hills, which is right next to Fort McDowell. She could throw a rock and hit it. So I contacted him and I said, Jonathan, I said, you lied to me, man. You lied to me. How are you going to make this event bigger? You've moved it into a venue that does not have as large a hall and that only has a 200-room hotel, of which the hotel will only give you 120 because they're holding back 80 for their gamblers on the weekends. So you have no place to house the people. You're not going to have as many people as we have now. And you've promised me you're going to grow it? This makes no sense. You lied to me. No, Bob, he says, I didn't lie to you. He says, you don't understand. I said, I don't want people in the chairs. I don't want to deal with these people. He said, they're going to be watching at home on their laptops in their bedrooms. They're going to be watching online. Well, I think he may have believed it. Never happened. Never happened.
So please welcome Ben Edmund Jones. His talk is called Apocalypse Soon, the end of the world, but not as we know it. Ben Edmund Jones.
The R word actually refers to a town in New Mexico, USA. And now, 75 years ago today, on the 8th of July, I'm only going to briefly disobey him, don't worry. This isn't some kind of shock new presentation. But just for a couple of minutes, I'm going to defy him. On the 8th of July 1947, the local newspaper in that area published a certain news story about a flying saucer being captured. I don't know if you remember that, but it was 75 years ago today. So, with no further ado, there may be a second papal abdication in a row, which is unprecedented. Presumably then, the end times will begin. All right, I'm just going to talk about Islam. Now, when you come onto Islam, you'll find that the ideas of the tribulation and the second coming and the apocalypse it's even more complicated than the Christian version, because they do also believe in the second coming of Jesus, or as they call him, Isa ibn Maryam. But the arrival of Jesus on earth to do final battle with Satan would be preceded by what they call the Mahdi. The Mahdi would be the Redeemer of Islam, the final Imam. And this is a guy called Mirza Guzman Ahmad. In 1858, he declared that he was the Mahdi. And he developed a large number of followers. And indeed, the Ahmadiyya communities, it's called, still exists. It has a very upmarket website, actually, and millions of adherents all over the world still believe that Ahmad was the Mahdi. Now, this guy died in 1908, and Isa ibn Maryam never appeared during his lifetime, so I don't know exactly how they worked that out. But what would happen is that Jesus would do battle, that what would emerge on earth would be the Antichrist in the form of a fake Messiah. It's called Messiah ad-Dajjal, literally the fake Messiah. And so that Jesus would do battle with the Messiah al-Dajjal. Now you come on to Hinduism and many other religions, similar religions. You have a very different notion. Rather than history being purposive and leading up to an appointed end in a linear fashion from creation to apocalypse, they believed in interconnecting cycles known as yugas, and there were also larger ones as well. There were super yugas with different names, so a number of yugas would make up I don't know what the word is. There's words like kalpa, which I'll describe in a moment. But these cycles would be eternal, yet when one yuga transformed to the other, when one yuga ended, another began, you would have an apocalypse-like event. It would be very, very similar to what is described in the book of Revelations. Yes, here is Krishna, an image of Krishna, the Savior God, who again played a similar role to Jesus and to the Mahdi. In Buddhism adopted many of the ideas of Hinduism, and indeed they believed that each apocalypse would be preceded by what they call the Maitreya, the future Buddha. Now, we all know about Prince Siddhartha. He was the original Buddha. In the 25th century, he became the person we know as the Buddha. But there are many, many other Buddhas. They're estimated to be 10,000 Buddhas per kalpa. So that sounds like an awful lot, doesn't it? You can imagine there's Buddhas raining down from the sky all the time. 10,000 per kalpa, they're everywhere. That is until you realize that a kalpa is a very long period of time. It's actually, well, there's several different kalpas, but the longest kalpa, the one referred to in the ideas of the Maitreya, is 4.7 trillion years. Not billion, trillion years. So you do the maths, you work out exactly how often would 10,000 would you get if you have an average of 10,000 Buddhas per kalpa? It wouldn't happen that often.
Apparently the first one was over 9 foot tall, blue, and his hands reached his knees.
I'm just coming on to that, Jane, actually, because I'm going to discuss. Yeah, but thanks for. You're absolutely right. There's even an alleged photo, which I'll be showing you in a minute. Along with the idea of the Savior, the Messiah, would be accompanied the Antichrist. And sometimes the Antichrist does appear as a fake Messiah. That's in some of the ideas, not just in Islam, but in many, many other beliefs as well. The Messiah al-Dajjal would first present themselves as a Messiah, then reveal themselves to be the ultimate evil. And there's lots of speculation about the arrival of the Antichrist on earth and who it might be. No, it's not Professor Brian Cox. I know I don't like him, but I don't dislike him that much. This guy's Benjamin Crem. Now, he's the Scottish guy. Now, he spent much of his life, actually from 1945 onwards until his death in 2016, he spent his life talking about the arrival on earth of the Maitreya. He believed that the Buddha, the Maitreya, had emerged. Now, he was a theosophist, so he actually believed in a lot of the ideas of Helena Blavatsky, a very interesting lady indeed from Russia.
So Maria's going to be talking to us about sacred circles and Druid temples. Maria, over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. It's great to be back at the Bases Project. I'm going to be talking about some very powerful ancient sites, but from the Bronze Age, going through to the Iron Age, to the Druids, and then to the Chaldees, because the Chaldees were a kind of sacred Christian order, and I'm going to be showing how the first church of Christendom was built on a pagan design and not any Christian design canon. Glastonbury now. This was a much later construct than the wattle church you saw earlier. So it's a later structure, but built on top of where the circular structure was. And it was excavated by Sir Frederick Blythe Bond. He was the main archaeologist there, and he believed that he was in touch with the dead monks. And the dead monks were channeling to him where to find all of the ruins of Glastonbury. He was right time and time again, because he just looked at Glastonbury, went straight to the excavation area, started digging, and whoa, he found chapels. The archaeologists and the church got wind of this and clamped down and said, you can't be listening to dead monks. But they're kind of right. But look what he said he found. Pyramids, too. And an obelisk or base of a pillar, just like ancient Egypt. He claimed that the monks were showing him this. So the next time you walk around Glastonbury Abbey and you see markings of a building that was a former building there, that he found them through his channeling. And this is the man here. If he'd been allowed to continue excavating Glastonbury, we would see 2 basements of pyramids there, because he was always, always right. Now, Ben was mentioning, Revelations. I don't, I'm not a Christian at all. But when you start to look at how it was portrayed, their New Jerusalem, Plato was talking about his city. They're talking about the same geometry all of the time, the same sacred pattern all of the time. And this is the New Jerusalem. And this is at Glastonbury Abbey, and this was drawn by our most famous geomancer to date, John Michell, who I met in 1988 at Hamish Miller's book launch. So he says there are 12 cells, just like the first church of Christendom. The 19.5, that's paces across, is where the cell of Jesus was, and the other ones are 8 paces across as well. So that was the first church based on that geometry, imbuing the earth energies and the power there with even more energy through its sacred patterns and its sacred geometry. It is outstanding. So now, where did they get that idea from? Where's the New Jerusalem from? And as has been shown by John Michell, it comes from Stonehenge. It's the first sacred New Jerusalem that was ever implied, and that pattern has been taken time and time again. And when we compare it to Glastonbury, the two become one. And again, when you start to look at how certain structures are built in London, how certain houses are built throughout this fair and pleasant land, then that is the sacred geometry they're using. If you can match it with that circular earth energy, if you can match it to earth currents, then you have a very powerful construct.
So Miles has just asked me to come on. I am actually speaking on closing the show on Sunday. I think my speech is called From Here to Eternity, and it's about something that we're getting together with other people, other organisations to create our new earth. But I'll tell you more about that on Sunday for those that are here. But in the meantime, I founded the Freedom Network, TFN, at the beginning of all this craziness. I think we all lose track of time, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was. So being on the Awake page, I think, born into the purpose of where I found myself, I just knew there was it was like with a sense of urgency, there was a need to create a system, an infrastructure for people to find each other. And where we were all locked down in our rooms or whatever, you weren't allowed out, you weren't allowed to sit on a park bench or go surfing or any of that stuff, I thought, wow, people have to find each other. So it was really simple. It was literally a website. And you would go to the website and you would look at the map and wherever your hometown was. If you're in, for instance, me, I'm Brighton based. And if somebody else in Brighton wanted to find me, they'd go onto the map and they'd be led to my email address. And that's as simple as it was. So on the back of that, we had about 400 hubs, community bases that are created all over the globe, actually. And initially, when I first set it up, you know, it was 24/7 for me. I was exhausted because I was being inundated with all these people coming out of the woodwork, knowing something wasn't right, and they just wanted to find their tribe. And it has been, you know, a major success. I'm a little bit burnt out from it, actually, because I think I've done my bit. And there's more to come, for sure. But what has happened through the network, it has allowed thousands of people to find each other. They set up autonomous groups. So the beauty of the network, the TFN, is that it's not a centralized system. There's no membership. You don't have to pay, and you don't go through me. So if you go onto the member and onto the website, and as I say, if you're in whatever town you were, you'll just be directed directly to that person who was setting up the community in their town. And there was guidance from me, because people say, okay, we're meeting, it's great. And then obviously we had further groups started to evolve, like Stand in the Park and Rebels on the Roundabouts, and all these other groups and assemblies and co-ops. So everybody started to come together, which was great. But the Freedom Network has been quite a solid organisation. It's still there. It's really just me sitting at a computer initiating it, but now that it's got legs because the communities have evolved and people are finding each other. So where it went on to the next step was, what do you do when you've got your community? Do you just stand in the park? You know, do you chat and moan about everything? Do you protest? Obviously all this is going on, but I'm a kind of positive person, so I saw the need to create more communities, this parallel society, which again is evolving. So what do? We find land, you know, we grow our own food, we take our children out of school, we educate them, we find alternative health systems. And this again, it's happening very quickly. So we're working with other people. Tess Laurie, I'm sure many of you are familiar with her. She's creating hubs again all over the country to you know, build new health systems outside of the current system. And it's just giving people a choice. That's all it is. So it's a very simple system that I've set up. Miles contacted me, or I came to one of the Bases conferences. He called me a shill, actually, when I first came, because he didn't know who I was. And I was supposed to come with a friend, but the friend had a back injury, so I came on my own. He just thought, who's she? She's a bit odd. And but then we've got to know each other, and then he would come to my event. So from the back of that, I should say, we've also created something called Uprise and Shine, and these are conferences. The first one we ran was in lockdown. Hence, I call them a conference. It was more or less really a festival, but it had speakers, we had music, we had fun. But because it was in lockdown, I called it a conference because it was educating people. So if the police did come, we thought they couldn't close us down. And the police did come, and they didn't close us down, even though we were supposed to be, whatever they told us, 3 foot away and wearing masks and that. None of that was happening. And it was brilliant, just bringing the people out of their houses, you know, that had been isolated and coming together. So we've got our 7th conference in just outside Glastonbury in September. Miles will hopefully be there filming. And it doesn't go as deep down the rabbit holes that these events take you, which I just love, because the people that I think I've been working with, the general public, many of them are very awake, but my market is really to bring people over, you know, to gradually, they know something isn't quite right, you know, the cost of living, the war, the petrol, all that, they know something isn't quite right, so they come to a community, and then we sow seeds, and then they look, and they go deeper, and then they realise that, you know, what we've been told is a mass lie, and they wake up. And hopefully, not everybody, but it's happening quite a lot. And it's a great opportunity because, again, being positive, I see this as a wonderful opportunity for the masses to come together and take back what is ours, which is freedom more than anything. You know, everybody here knows what's going on. And this has taken us to another level of humanity. You know, we are superhuman beings, that what we have got within ourselves that has been suppressed, we are now going to that path. And where we have all been, you know, some of us have been very lonely because you think you're a bit weird, because you talk to your family members about all this weird stuff that's going on in the world, like the movies, you know, they tell you the truth. They have to tell you. I think there's a universal law that they have to tell you what they're planning. So when you translate that to a normal person, they think you're bonkers. And, you know, I've fallen out with many family members, many friends along the way, as I'm sure all of you have. But the great great thing about this, we are all coming together, and there's power and effort and energy and positivity from this, and that's what the Freedom Network does. It brings the people together so that we can create our new parallel society, and that's what we're doing with our new So it's bringing groups of people, these communities that have been established throughout the country. What do? They need to connect with each other, and if they do want to let's say if they want to grow their own food, how do they do it? How do they get land? They've never, they don't even know what a polytunnel is. Well, they'll come through to us, and we will have the experts to give them the advice. So that's where we're taking it. And the next thing that I'm getting excited about, other than the conference, is we're going to do a jubilee, because Queen Elizabeth has just had hers, hasn't she? So we want one on the 10th of September, and we're going to call it Debt-Free Jubilee. And it's literally we just had this idea. So a bunch of us are getting together. We're going to create some bunting. And I was just talking to Louis back there, and he was saying, oh, you should have the Union Jack. I thought, really? I don't know, but maybe we do. But we're at that early stages. What do we have on our bunting? What do we have on our logo? But the main thing is to get people out on the street, partying, having a good time. And they don't know what it's about, but they come because they like a party, don't they? They like to celebrate things with bunting. So if we can get them out on the street and then say, well, what's all this about then? We say, well, it's about debt. How are you finding, you're coping in your household? You're struggling? Oh, yeah, because I can't pay the bills and this happened. So then we sow the seeds, and then we get them over. It's just about a numbers game. So that's the main thing. So do look out for it. I'll put some flyers on the back about the Freedom Network so that you can, find your local hub or get in touch with me or take it further or just spread the word. But that's basically it. And any questions, then, I'm happy to answer them now or come and see me later on. And otherwise, I'm going to be here for the duration, and I'm also here on the Sunday.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bases 2022, Day 2. This is a Saturday morning. Welcome to everybody who's managed to make it through lockdown.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you coming to this Bases event. I'm going to be talking about Star Wars. Has anyone not seen Star Wars here? That's cool. I did a talk in Swansea not so long ago, and it's quite surprising how many people turned up who have never seen Star Wars, and that seems like a shocking thing in this day and age, being such a huge franchise that it was, and the first appeared. So again, what was happening, I feel like there was just this wave of information. Whether you look at George Lucas, if you want the sort of fiction version, or you want to read these books like Zechariah and Robert Temple. So that was, for me, a very interesting book.
As the who fades away, who are you is the question we all have to find the answer to. For anyone important in our lives, and particularly for those we vote for, to have power over us. There's a common assumption by most that we are all basically the same with the intention of a positive, harmonious future between peoples. It is one of the objectives of this presentation to show why this is unfortunately far from the truth. The first slide shows the famous Flammarion engraving of 1888, with the man crawling under the edge of the sky or firmament to see what lies beyond.
Okay, now big hand for yourself, because you're all here for the purpose of change, number one. And number two, when I get done, you're going to find out that you, collectively, are the Godhead of creation, period.
We are made of, or we should be made of 86% water. And we hear people saying, when you're ill, you go, oh, try this, try that, try that. It's always adding something to your body. Well, how about starting on the 80% of your body and cleaning that up first, because that's water, and then start treating the body? That's totally different, because the structure of the water in our body is absolutely critical. and you'll find out. Everything I'm going to show you today has been tested, it's proven, not conspiracy. We've got all the science. I work with a professor of biology and a professor of physics. He built particle accelerators for CERN and also at NASA for 7 years. And we've also got people who understand DNA programming on my team. Amazing things happening, and you'll see today what's going on.
Order, order in the house. Okay, it's with great pleasure I welcome to the stage Kerry Cassidy, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so now I'm going to do actually kind of jumping around because there's so many different topics worth covering, and I decided to sort of do the Kennedy thing first and the white hats, and then I'll jump to some other thing. It depends how much time we have. You know, you're thinking of the Q drops as a very specific communication tool, but in general, Q could also encompass the entire white hat movement for overturning the cabal control of the world. All right, so it's not just of the United States. And we're talking about stopping things like what I call the adrenochrome highway. And that involves, what we're talking about is, some people call it louche, but it's, using the glands and blood and organs, et cetera, of children and these certain kinds of beings that feed on our energy.
Please welcome to Bases 2022, Andrea Fultz. No karma, no drama. Over to you, Andrea.
Thanks, Sam. I've been doing past life regression for over 20 years, full-time, every day, day in, day out. And so I thought I'd share a little bit of my own story of how I got into past life regression and what happened to me. And then I'll talk about the healing aspects, which is my passion about past life regression, inner child healing, ancestral timeline healing, spirit releasement, working with entities, and more recently, since 2011, light language codes as well. Screaming and all kinds of things happening because, dark entities have attached. Usually those people have done some form of drugs that have not been good for them at some point in their life. You don't tend to see that kind of thing happening to people unless they've done some kind of drugs at some point, although some people can have experiences. I've seen people leave their body and literally die in front of me and then come back to life, and in your mind you're thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get away with this? Like, I'll say I just met them in the street or something, and I don't know, they were dead on the floor. But I've seen them literally, their soul leave their body, and then, I've literally had to slap them to bring them back to life, and they've literally coughed and spluttered like a car. And they've literally gone, oh my God, I don't know where I went. I think I've just, I don't know. I'm like, you died and you've just come back again. And they go, I feel amazing now. I'm like, I'm sure you will. And
well, it's a great honor to be here. And I thank Miles and Karen for daring to have me along today. Daring because the subject matter for today's talk is, how can we put this? Very revealing, and I hope that you find it so. You can see that at the bottom there, with the lowest emotional intelligence scores, are chief executive officers. And as we move up, as we move up the graph, but down the hierarchy, the scores for emotional intelligence increase. Should it be like that? I can see people shaking their head. No, of course it shouldn't be like that. And one of the reasons I say that is because there's a heck of a lot of research that shows that the person at the top of an organization sets the culture for that organization. The modus operandi, if you like, of an organization is set by the person at the top. So if the person at the top treats people like the executive head that I mentioned before, that means it's fair game for other people in the organization to behave in exactly that way. This is why it's so serious to have people behaving like that at the top of organizations. And it's not just that research that taught us about the dangers of organizations, but a book by George Simon, In Sheep's Clothing. And this is what he has to say. CEOs most often have inflated self-esteem and are undeterred by adverse consequences or societal condemnation. So he corroborates the other research. And it gets worse, I have to say, with regret. A study in 2007 with a sample of 39 business managers found a high instance of histrionic and narcissistic attributes. We've seen the connection between that and psychopathy. And they found high levels of charm, egocentricity, and lack of empathy. There we have it again. We had it originally in Dr. Hare's model, if you recall. And this study, involving 2 people, concluded that the lack of empathy they observed was more common in business leaders than in so-called disturbed personalities. And people are working in these organizations. Many of us would have worked in these organizations.
Please welcome to Bases 2022, Kerry Murray, founder of the United Free Press.
Thank you.
Kerry's going to give us a short introduction, and then we're going to take questions from the floor. So over to you, Kerry.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Sam. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess. I'm Kerry Murray, chairman and founder of the United Free Press. And hopefully, this session will be a little bit different. I won't be talking for half an hour straight, which I'm sure you'll be all very glad for. But I will give you a brief overview of what the United Free Press is, and then open for some questions. Hopefully everyone's roused and refreshed after your 15 minutes, and you can come to me with any questions about the media or the press or the state that it's in at the moment. But first of all, what is the United Free Press? So let's take a show of hands and see who's actually heard of the United Free Press before. Okay, 1, 2, 3, all right. I'll stop counting. It's single digits at the moment. Hopefully not single digits after this session today. The United Free Press was really born of the protest movement through the last 2 years concerning COVID and restrictions and mandates and vaccines and masks and all of the other very long list of things which we've had to put up with. But it was born because I myself, in probably March 2020, at the advent of the first lockdown, started thinking to myself, well, what is this all about? What's going on here? What are we seeing coming out of the mainstream news, not just here, but abroad as well? And I became very, very curious as to some of the nature of what I was hearing around veracity of, COVID, and it was killing everybody and everyone was going to die on the streets, and we were seeing images coming in from abroad, and it was all very scary. But I very quickly came to the conclusion that that wasn't the path that I was going to go down, which is to say that I wasn't going to abide any of these measures. I didn't believe in them, I didn't think they were right, and I thought there was something much more nefarious going on. But I didn't know really how to tackle that, apart from, as many of us have done, sort of fight battles in our own lives, when we choose not to be locked in our homes, when we choose not to wear a mask at the supermarket, for example. Or when we choose to talk to our friends about or friends or our family, indeed, about our thoughts and our feelings and our convictions around this topic. And it's been a very hard time. And so what I noticed was that there was a groundswell starting to form. There was a resistance movement of sorts starting to form, not just here, but also around the world. And I started to think, well, how do I contribute to this movement? How do I put something into it besides just what I'm doing day to day? Besides just kind of ignoring what was being told to us to do.
Welcome to the afternoon session on Sunday at the Bases 2022 conference. It's my great pleasure to introduce Matthew Williams, and we're going to be exploring underground bases and tunnels, Urbex. Over to you, Matthew.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, as you've heard, my name is Matthew Williams. I'm originally from South Wales. I'm 50 years of age. I'm going to see whether I can hold my gut in for the cameras for the next 45 minutes. May not happen, but Yeah, I'm a friend of Miles. I've known him for many years. So I've got to know Miles very well. yeah. Oh, not like that. No. But yeah, I've helped Miles out with a lot of conferences in the past. And some of you may have seen me talking about UFOs and crop circles. Yeah, I basically, I'm going to cut to the chase. You'll have to watch the other videos. I could go into great detail, but I'm a big believer in UFOs. I saw a UFO when I was 25, somewhere around that age, and it turned me into a UFO investigator. I've seen a lot of other things since, including in Wiltshire. I've seen a little ball of light being chased by a helicopter go up into a big saucer. Believe it or not, it's actually above the village of Pewsey. Well, you've seen how big Pewsey is. This saucer was the size of Pewsey. Went up into the saucer and went whoosh into the clouds at high speed. So that was interesting. Seen so many things. I mean, I'm not going to go into it here, but ghosts, I believe in the paranormal, I believe in clairvoyance. I've had lots of great sessions with mediums. Sometimes you see me now doing videos where I go out with people who are doing sort of ghost sessions and Ouija boards and things like that. And I don't put them on my channel, but I do take part in them and then direct you where you can go to see that sort of stuff. I've got a couple of channels on YouTube. One is The Secret Vault, which is, I'll show you the title sequence for that in a second. There's some other channels which, I don't know, I mean, I don't tell people about those channels because it's my attempts at really bad comedy. So you'll have, if you can find them, then you know you're onto a winner because it's definitely bribable, blackmailable material. So yeah, I used to do the crop circles as well. Now this is where, like, you know, a lot of people are like, get the garlic out. You know, he's a government agent. Don't believe him. He's lying. People can't make crop circles, but people do make crop circles, and I came down here looking for UFOs as Miles has moved into the area. It's a great area to meet people who've got similar interests like UFOs and this sort of thing. Second only probably to somewhere like Glastonbury, which has a lot of people that are interested in this sort of stuff. Anyway, moved into the area, became heavily involved in looking into the crop circles, ended up meeting some circle makers, found out that they were, in my opinion, very nice people, and it was a very misunderstood thing that they were doing. I decided to sort of test it out by making some circles myself, and I had a lot of weird things happen to me, and I've definitely seen a lot of weird things happen to other people as well that visit the circles. So when people ask me the question, as you're probably all wanting to ask me, how many circles are man-made, I would say most of them. And I will say that to give this little window of opportunity for those that want to say, oh yeah, but there's definitely some real ones out there, so therefore, you know, that invalidates me completely. But I would say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the man-made circles are what is out there, and the weird experiences that people have had, including things I've been involved in, like telepathy and telepathic sort of feeling to go out and make a design, even on my own one night, and then I found out that that was being asked for by a group of people who were meditating on exactly the shape that I went and did about 200 feet from where they were doing a meditation, albeit a silent meditation. But when I arrived, I thought I heard guitars playing, and I think that was something that communicates with the circle makers as well, warning me, don't let them know you're here, because if I didn't think anyone was there, I'd have been making a lot more noise. So I made that circle by myself very quietly, and then it was something that was special for other people. That's how circle making works.
Sandy Adams, who's going to deepen our awareness of Agenda 21 2030. Over to you, Sandy.
Thank you very much. And thanks for being here so late and everything. It's an agreement to implement Agenda 21 policies from global to local worldwide. Now, you'll find that Agenda 21 policies are in every town council in England. And it was a plan to control every resource on our planet by these globalists. And it was all land, all water, minerals, construction, means of production, agriculture, plants, animals, education, energy, information, human beings, and control of all religious doctrine.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Karen Dodd, the founder of the Freedom Network. Karen.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure we're all a bit exhausted, aren't we? Because it's been beautiful weather for 3 days, and I know just sitting here, you know, my hat goes off to you for those that are still here. I know there's quite a few. I'm here to talk a little bit about the Freedom Network, and I've called this presentation From Here to Eternity, because it is really from here, feeding on from what Sandy's said, to eternity. Where are we taking this? It's up to us. And it's about our new Earth 1, which we kind of launched in Stratford at the end of April. So it's about community. What we have been listening to this weekend has been quite phenomenal, and every time somebody's spoken about something, I think, oh yes, that's where our community comes in, whether it's aliens, whether it's sacred geometry, whether it's growing food. It's basically what we need to do, and it's about community. That's the answer. It's about community. It's about finding your local tribe and doing stuff. And so when we talk about community, what does it actually mean to you? So metaphorically, you do need to ask yourself questions. Is this your community? Is Stand in the Park community? Is your family and friends community? What does it mean to you? Because from that, you can then ask yourself, why are you here? Not just here in Pusey at this conference, but why are you here on this planet? What are you doing here? What is your contribution? Where is your life taking you? Who are you? What are you? These are really important questions, because this will take you into the freedom that we're all seeking and that we deserve, and that is ours.